Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video you will learn what are React portals and why this is the amazing solution to render element inside root level. So let's jump right into it. The first question is, do we have a problem at all? All front-end frameworks are working in the same way. We have a component tree of all components and we are starting somewhere on the root level and then we are going deeper and deeper and deeper. And we are just rendering all these components as a tree. But here is the problem. What happens if we need to render something in the root level? For example, sometimes we need to implement such things like modals or tooltips, so some elements which should be shown on the top of your current element. And the main problem is here when you will render them inside of your component, then you may have a problem with positioning or overflows. So actually overflow hidden will just cut the element, which actually means if you have a tooltip or a model and you are using overflow hidden, it just won't work because you will cut the whole element. And the best solution for this problem is to render all these elements like model or tooltip inside root, so basically in the body. And the point is that we can't really do it easy inside front-end frameworks, just because we have this tree and we can't really work with body directly. And actually React is amazing because they implemented this React portals feature just inside framework itself. And actually, if I will compare it with Angular, in Angular it's the most complicated and the worst possible scenario how you need to implement this feature. And in React, in comparison, it is working like a breeze. So now, let's try to implement a real example to check how it's working. Let's say that we need to build a reusable model that we can open in every place of our application and render whatever we want inside. So let's try this out now. So here I have an empty Create React App application. And if you don't know what is Create React App or how you can generate a project with it, I will link here a video I already talked about that. And as you can see inside project, I have in source just two files, index.js with just app component, and here is my app component with just h1 tag. So actually this is a good start for us. Now the question is how we are planning to do this feature. So actually for me, modal sounds like an additional component where inside we can pass different content. For example, let's say that app is our consumer, so this is the component where we will use our model. So first of all, here I want to write some div, and inside we can just write app component, so we see that it is rendered, and now we will use here our model that we will create in a second. So what I want to do here is open and close model and write some content inside. So actually the idea is that we can provide content from the consumer, so from our app. And here we can pass whatever content we want and it must be rendered correctly inside our model. Now let's create this additional model component. So here in source, I will create modal.js and here just create stateless function model without any parameters. And now let's export here as a default our model. And now here we can return something. But here is the interesting part. As I already said, it is really nice how React allows us to render elements inside root. So actually here what we can do, we can import create portal from React DOM. And actually this is important, it's React DOM and not React. So what is exactly create portal? This is something like portals, for example in games or in fantasy books. So this is something that is leading you to the different place. So the idea is that we are now inside our model or inside our app or any component and we can say please create a portal to the root. So actually we will render our model not inside our app but directly inside root. And for this we want to return here not just normal markup like we are normally doing, but here we want to return create portal and inside we just pass in our normal markup like we normally will. So here I will write div and inside, for example, model. But here is an interesting part. Actually, this is the markup and this is the first argument of this create portal function. which means we have here a second argument. And here we can say document get element by ID, and let's say here, for example, model, which actually means that this is the same logic like it is inside our index.js. As you saw here, we have React DOM render, and here we have some markup as a first argument, and then we have this document get element by ID root, which actually means that we are rendering our model inside additional element, which is outside of our current React application. Now, the only thing that we need to do is create this element inside our index.html page. So for this, I will jump inside public, and here we have our index.html, and somewhere here inside body, we have our div ID root. So now we need to create here div ID model, because this is how we named our element. And actually, this is all that we need to do in order to render our model inside root. We're just using create portal from React, we're just providing inside what we want to render and where, and we're good to go. So actually the abstraction that React is doing for us is amazing, because we don't need to attach something to body or somehow handle React plus DOM elements. This is all done out of the box by React. Now let's bind this model inside our app and check if it's working. So here I want to import our model from modal, and now we can render it. Actually, we already did that. So this is our model, and let's now reload the page. As you can see, we don't have any errors, and here you can see that we are rendering first of all app component and then model component. But let's now inspect this model. And as you can see, we have here div ID root, and this is where our application is being rendered. And we also have here div ID model, and this is completely independent to our React application, and we are rendering our model component inside. As I already said, this is the best approach that I saw in front-end world at all. Now that was the basics of create portal that you need to know. But actually now let's bring our model to some living state. First of all, of course, we don't want to render it out of the blue. So here we want to render it, for example, when we're hitting some button. So let's create here a button and name it open model. And here we can bind on click event. And when we're clicking on the button, we want to show this model. This actually means that we need some state. And actually for this, we can use useState hook from React hooks. And if you don't know what useState or React hooks, I already have a full video on that. I will link it here on the top. So for this, I will import here useState hook from React. And now here we can create state. So here we want to create state for some property, for example, is modal opened. So here will be is modal opened, and here setter set is modal opened. And this will be our state. So here we're calling useState with default false, which means by default this form is not opened. And now we can use this isModalOpened to understand if our model is opened, and set isModalOpened and the moment when we're clicking here. So here I want to set isModalOpened to true. This is why here we need a function, and we're calling set isModalOpened with true. And let's check this now. Actually, we can just console log here our isModalOpened. And let's check what is it about. We reload the page. As you can see, we have now this button open model. By default, isModalOpened is false. Now we're hitting on this button and isModalOpened is true. Now we need to render our model element only when this property is in true. And there are two ways how we can do it. First of all, we can just wrap it with if condition of React, how we are normally doing. But the problem is here that every time when we are using a model, we must wrap it inside isModalOpened and here create this state. And this is a little bit verbose for me. What we can do instead is just pass inside model property is opened. And let's say here is model opened. Now model by itself can decide if it should render something or not. So here inside we are passing our isOpened, actually this is isModalOpened, from our state. Now we can jump inside model and say here that as an argument we are getting isOpened. And now actually if it is not opened, we just return null, so we're not rendering anything at all. And in this case, we don't need to do something on the parent, so here, because we just passed inside is opened and model is handling everything by itself. So let's check this out. We're reloading the page, we don't see our model, we're hitting open model, and now this component is being rendered just like any normal component. Now let's create some styles for our model and also some markup, because just word model doesn't do anything. So for this I will first jump in our modal.js and write here some nice markup. So here we have div model. This is literally not enough. What we want here is inside div to have more markup. So first of all, inside model we always have an overlay. So we need some black background, maybe a little bit transparent, so we're blocking the whole page from being visible. This is why here I'm creating overlay. And this is just a div, and we will make it with position absolute later. After this we have div, actually not class but class name, because we're working with React. Here is class name model, and here we will write some styles for our model. Now inside we want to render two things. First of all, the content that we passed from the parent, and secondly the cross button, so we can close our model. So first of all, here I want to create the span, where inside we will render the cross. So here will be class name close button. So we will style it later, and here I will just put X, and after this here is our div with content. So here will be class name modal content, and here we want to close this div, and inside render children. And actually what is children? This is the content that we passed from the parent. So actually inside app, we have inside model this content. As you can see content, we can write here content from app. Now we can get here our children just from the structuring of the props. So here will be children, and now they are rendered here inside model content. So let's check how it looks like. When we reload the page, no errors are here, we're clicking open model. So first of all, we have here content from app. This is what we passed inside children, and here is our cross, so we can close this model. Now we just need to add CSS for our model. For this, let's create additional CSS file and name it modal.css. Actually, we can create maybe additional folder, but I won't do it now because we don't have that many files. So first of all, here we need modal, and modals are always position fixed, because doesn't matter where we're scrolling, we want to see the whole model on the whole screen. This is why here we're setting position fixed, and we also want to center it. This is why top 50%, left 50%. Now let's add some sizes for our model. So here let's say that we have width 500 pixels and height 300 pixels. And we need here z-index, so it should be higher than our content. So here I will put 3. And if you want to ask why here z-index is 3, because 1 is default, 2 we want to reserve for our overlay, and z-index 3 is the content of our model. Now let's bind the CSS to our modal.js component. So here on the top we can say import, and just import here our model CSS. But just remember that all the styles are simply global. So I will reload the page. As you can see, we have an error, missed semicolon. So somewhere here I forgot to put semicolon. Actually, as you can see here, I put colon and not semicolon. Now let's reload the page. We don't have any errors. Now open model. At least our model is already centered. So let's check the styles. Our model is there. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So here is our model. We have here overlay, model. Here is the styles of our model. And actually we want also to move it on the center. So top 50% and left 50% is fine, but we also want to move it back on the size of our model. This is why here we want to add transform, and here will be translate minus 50%, so the half of the model, and once again minus 50% on the vertical. Now let's check if it's working. When I reload the page and click Open Modal, as you can see, here is where our content. But actually this is all correct, and we just need to add here to model, for example, border, 1 pixel solid red, and now we can see if it's fine or not. So as you can see, actually our model is in the center, but just our content is completely on the left. So for now, for debugging purposes, we can write here border 1 pixel solid red, just so we can see our model correctly. Now we need to style our overlay. So what is overlay? This is just a transparent background here, which is position absolute, and it must take the whole screen. So here let's create overlay. And we want first of all to say position absolute. Now top 0, left 0, right 0, and bottom 0. And this is how it is taking the whole screen. We also want here z-index too, so it should cover the whole content but not the model. This is why this z-index is smaller than this z-index of the model. And the last one is our background color. And here we want actually to use black, but it should be transparent. This is why we need RGBA color. So here is an RGBA for the black. We have 0, 0, 0, and here just .7. So actually it will be a little bit transparent. So let's check this out. As you can see, already we have this transparent background. But the problem is here that our model does not have any background. This is why it is the same color as our overlay. We can easily fix that if we're writing here background white, so FFF. And actually I think we can remove this border for now. Let's reload the page. As you already saw, here is our overlay as it should be, and here is our white model. Now actually we can add some padding so it will look better. Actually 10 pixels is enough, and as you saw, now our content is a little bit centered. The next step is to style our content. I don't want to style it a lot, but at least we need some margin from the top. This is why here let's say modal content and just add here margin top, maybe 40 pixels. So as you can see, now our content is starting somewhere near the center and it is looking much better. Now we just want this cross to be on the right, so we need to style it with position absolute. So here I will add our close button, and inside we need position absolute, and here we will have right, and from right, for example, 20 pixels. So actually right will be here. And now we need top, maybe 15 pixels, and of course cursor pointer, because it's not a button, it's a span. When we reload the page, as always, miss it semicolon, so here I put colon. Let's check this out. As you can see, now our cross is on the right, and we have here cursor pointer. So actually we successfully finished with our styling of the model, and it is looking like real model. The next problem is that we can't really close the model, so we have this cross, but it doesn't do anything. So let's bring it to the live. We need to jump inside our model. Here is our close button. So we want here to add an on-click event. And what we want to do on click, we want actually to close the model. But the problem is that this is our parent who says if our model is opened or not. So actually we must provide a function from the parent. For example, here we can provide onClose function, and we just call it onClick here. So we're calling here onClose from the parent, and when we're hitting X, the function onClose in the parent should do something. This is why let's jump inside app, and here where passing is opened, and we also need now to pass onClose. And what we want to do here is just change our state. So we can say here set isModal_open to false. So actually on close, this part will change our state to false. Let's check this out. I'm reloading the page. We're clicking open model. Now I'm clicking on the cross and our model is completely gone, which means everything is working correctly. We could stop on this moment, but actually it would be nice to have some real content here that will be looking like the content of the model. So let's say that we want to build a model for the sign-in form. This is why here inside app, let's add some form for sign-in and style it a little bit. So here inside modal, we can first of all add our form, and here we need on submit, and on submit actually we will just close our form. So we will do exactly the same like we already did. We can set is modal opened to false. So here I am closing our form, and now inside we need some inputs. So first of all here I will do section because I want to add both label and an input. So here inside section we need first of all a label, and inside this label let's write email, and now we need an input for our email. This is why here input type, let's say email, and we will just close it, so we won't bind any data here. I will just copy this section once again, and here we will have label password, and here type password. And after this section we need a button which will submit the form. So let's say here sign in. And actually we don't need any action here because we have on submit. Let's reload the page. As you can see, our form is there, but this is really ugly. So first of all, let's check if sign in works. So we're clicking on sign in and our modal is being closed. This is exactly what we wanted. Now let's add some basic styles to our form to see that it is working. So here I will just create app.css, and inside let's style the elements that we have inside our form. So actually we have only section, label and input. So first of all here I want to import our CSS file, this is app.css, and now inside let's style first of all labels. So we need here display block just to make it on the new line. So let's try this now, display block, and also increase font size to make it more readable. As you can see, it is actually already better. The sizes are bigger and inputs are starting on the new line. The next thing that we can do is style our inputs. So here, first of all, I want width at least 300 pixels and height maybe 30 pixels. And of course, we need to increase font size of the text, maybe also 30 pixels. As you can see now, these inputs are really big, but probably they are fine for sign-in form to see that inputs really nice, but actually we can make font size a little bit smaller. The next one will be section, and here we will just add some margin bottom, maybe 10 pixels. Let's reload the page. As you can see, we have a nice margin between sections. And of course, we can center this login form. So this is why here we want first to add some class. So let's jump in app and on our form add class name, and let's name it login form. Now we can style this login form. So here let's add login form. And now inside, first of all, let's say that we have some width, maybe 300 pixels like our input. Then we want to center it. This is why here margin 0 auto. And we need some margin from the top, for example, 70 pixels. As you can see now, our form is fully centered and it is looking really like a real form for sign in some website. As you can see, React did a great job of hiding all complexity of rendering elements outside of React 3. And actually, as you saw, all props and events are still just working like inside React 3. But our model is not in React 3 completely, but we still can communicate and out of the box everything is working. Also, if you want to improve your programming skills, I have a lot of advanced courses regarding different web technologies. And if you are interested, I will link them down in the description box below, so don't forget to check them out. And if you like this video and you want more content like this, don't forget to put thumbs up to support me and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't like this video, consider watching it once again on increased speed, that might help. And I will see you in my next video.